Welcome to the Biz Easy podcast, where small business is simplified for greater results. Brought to you by Resources and Development. Go to www.resources-development.com for help in taking your business to the next level. And now, help me welcome the host of the Biz Easy podcast, Steve McCrillis.
Welcome to the Biz Easy podcast, coming to you recorded across the airwaves for all of America from beautiful Bryan Head, Utah, 10,000 feet, and I can hardly breathe, Steve. Your resource to help take your business to the next level. Much like the Biz Easy podcast, our new book, Isn't It Time Your Business Becomes Biz Easy, is an eclectic collection of everyday challenges that business owners face every day. So I ask, isn't it time you get our new book? It's available on Amazon or as an ebook at resources-development.com. Also, please stay tuned to learn how you get your free Biz Easy business tool gift. My name is Skip. I'm playing host today. I'm the lead business coach here at Resource and Development, and you're a great host as we learn how to stay better focused on the things that make you great. Now I'd like to introduce my partner, our face to the nation, our resident know-it-all, and soprano voice of the network, Steve McCrillis.
Thank you, Skip. Appreciate it. You know, even though you are the host, you still cannot avoid the inevitable.
Do I have to?
You do.
All right. Did you hear about the restaurant company that wanted to build a steakhouse on the moon?
I did not.
They decided against it because it had no atmosphere. But all right.
Okay.
You've written a great blog for us today. Why don't you tell folks what we got cooking for them?
Well, many have tried, many have failed, but the entrepreneurs that continue and succeed have certain things in common. With assurance, I can say they have all asked themselves this very critical question at some point in their effort. Why did I decide to go into business for myself? Now, this question is typically following either a downturn in sales, an unfortunate mechanical mishap, or an employee snafu that seem to fall outside the regular flow of business operations. But much planning is typically done prior to going into business for yourself, but there's always another outlying situation that befalls the entrepreneur. Let's look at the history.
Well, Steve, I can attest to that. I mean, people know that being in business for yourself is harder than working for somebody else, but I don't think people realize how much harder it is.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So at any given time, every entrepreneur asks themselves, "Why am I doing this?" For sure.
Well, I've had the good fortune in my career as a business analyst to visit over 5,000 small to medium-sized companies, meeting the business owners, young and old. My work took me all over the country, visiting over 500 small towns and cities. Over the years, my discovery had some specific similarities. When I asked how they got started in their own business, the story was remarkably consistent, although unique to everyone, remarkably consistent. A vast majority, I'd argue over 90%, decided in high school that they really had little interest in pursuing their education by going either to college or a trade school. So while in high school, they took a part-time job working either in the trades or whatever industry that they could find work, restaurant, manufacturing, distribution, or other. So that's how they got started. It starts early.
It does, but and I think you're talking about mostly the trades here and so forth. But I think that's also true of, college graduates, professionals, and so forth starting their business. In fact, some of the most successful companies we know have been created recently by college dropouts, right?
Yeah, and we can name a few.
Right.
What's interesting, because many trades obviously require education. You want to be an engineer, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer. We get all that, but I'm talking about those Main Street type of businesses. Turns out they become quite proficient at their skill level and are offered a full-time job with the company after they graduate from high school. After working years as a manufacturer, plumber, electrician, excavator, distributor, enter the job title here, they realize they are so good that they find themselves as the key employee for their employer. Now, here's where the rubber hits the road. He says to himself, I'm tired of working for this guy while he makes all the money and I get a wage. Now the wheels start turning. Deciding that he knows as much about the business as the numbnuts he works for, he decides to set on his own. So what does he do? Slaps a magnetic sign on the side of his truck, car, and or floods social media with his capabilities, and suddenly he's his own business.
Doing the work and running the business is two different things, though, Steve. I mean, uh, it's wonderful that you have a job and somebody keeps you busy, but trying to keep yourself busy through marketing and sales and kissing babies and shaking hands takes an awful lot more work than actually doing the work.
Well, it does. We've been doing this for 25 years, but we both got started in the consulting business. You more longer than me. But social media was not a thing when we started doing this, but they did
Right.
everything they could to advertise, but they knew that they were good at it. And because they were so good at it, they knew a lot of people that knew they were good at it and were able to get most of word of mouth. For some time, though, as they were working, things go quite well because let's face it, they had the business. They were getting started, and if it's there, they can do it, right? Now the people he
They
spoke
take
to
any
while
job.
yeah, people he spoke to while employed by another guy are asking if they'll do their project, and they know someone who also needs work done, and so on and so on. So it's a word of mouth thing. Now, getting business as an owner operator doesn't seem that tough. In fact, he can hardly keep up with the demand. Enter phase two. Now I need help doing all the work that I have just gone out and focused on getting. Well, so what happens? They employ their brother, cousin, friend. Seems like a logical choice because you know them and their quality of their work fits what your quality of work looks like. So with two people doing the work, things continue to grow. As you would imagine, the business is successful because all the work is controlled by the owner. Everyone's happy, so it seems. And that's phase two.
Yeah, and I mentioned in a previous podcast, like for an owner doing it all, the amount of customers they need is X, right? When you start having employees, in order to make the same amount of money for you, you're probably looking at about 4X. No, four employees out there as busy as you've been in the past to so that you can still make as much as you were making before.
Well, Skip, you're giving away the punchline. So suddenly, with the addition of new people, the owner has less time to do the work and finds himself tied behind the computer, up to his eyeballs in administrative tasks he never really tended to before. And he's now got staff, he's got equipment, he's got inventory, he's got vehicles or whatever. The people he hired for the work aren't performing as he expects, and he now finds himself doing rework, repair, mishaps, or any other issues the industry may dictate. As pressure mounts to gain more clients, to keep his people busy, and keep up with the steady flow of expenses that is bound to increase as the business grows, he finds himself asking the question, why did I get into business for myself? Because he's suddenly been taken away from the things that really he enjoyed doing the work. But now he's got other people and he's following up after them, and it gets a little tricky.
Just in the consulting business, I can vouch for this. I mean, I would spend probably for every hour of consulting I actually did and got paid for, I would probably spend 20 hours lecturing, writing, returning phone calls, sales, marketing, whatever. You're spending at least 20 hours of work to get 1 hour of paid work, you know?
Well, at this point, after they've already brought on friends, family, people that they know, and they're all moving along, and he realizes that he's kind of out of his element. He's doing, business stuff. The company is, depending upon the industry, anywhere from $1 million to 2 million, let's say, in revenues. Now, the problem is there doesn't seem to be as much money left over as there used to be. Now, even though sales have doubled, tripled, or even quadrupled, the amount of profit has dwindled. Well, how can that be? He's thinking to himself. With pressure mounting to keep his family financially stable, growing his business, he comes to one of his first critical decision-making points in his business. What he was doing the work for himself, he was taking home more money with less headaches. Now he's working more and taking home less, usually with more headaches. The answer, he thinks to himself, is simple. How do I fix this? How do I make sure that I can make more money and keep more myself? Well, the simple answer is dial it back, sell some equipment, jump back in the truck and do it myself.
Or go back to work for his old boss.
Well, he's bound and determined not to do that because he's his own business. And
right.
Kudos to him. And I really think that that's important aspect of the whole thing.
Of course.
Now, I've seen business owners who have made this dial back decision 2 and 3 times in their time as an owner. Now they're anywhere from 50 to 60 years old, and they realize running the business isn't all it's cracked up to be. Problem is, it's not easy for them to jump back in the pickup truck as it used to be. The question comes again, why did I decide to go into business for myself? Next decision, keep the business or sell it. But wait, the business has little or no value without me because I manage the business and I'm working the business. He's become more people dependent, not systems dependent, which is a whole different podcast. So
Right
what does
on.
that even mean? Becoming people dependent, not systems dependent. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, sure. If the business is dependent on me being there, me having all the relationships with the customers, me knowing how the work gets done properly, you can't really sell that business because you're an integral gear in the mechanism of your business. If, on the other hand, you've created systems that allow people to make decisions, and they can work independently of if you're there or on vacation, then your system's dependent. Now you have a saleable business.
Well, let me take a step back. So he gets to that point where he is working on the business, but he prefers to work in the business. He's taking home less money, but generating more in gross revenues. He doesn't like that part because he doesn't understand the business of the business part. So he goes up and down that and he decides, I'm going to dial it back. I've seen it, like I mentioned earlier, I've seen it happen 2 and 3 times in a person's career. They're at 50, 60, like I mentioned. And now they come to that point again. So given the above scenario, which have seen countless times, it's only when the business owner realizes the difference between people and systems dependency, and he knows that it's his responsibility to control change, will anything ever get better. Should he choose to blame the business failure on the economy, the competition, or the weather? Well, he'll never get past that cycle. And I've seen it many times. I said, next time you decide to blame anything, make sure it's not the competition, the weather, or the economy, because those things you can't control. Now, this
Right.
path of understanding for anyone going into business for themselves is essential to avoid asking yourself the question. Most business advisors stake their reputation on the sequence of understanding. That's when, if they can't figure out that they've got to work on the business rather than in the business, or they seek help to be able to manage that part of it, that cycle continues again.
That's certainly a worn out phrase, working on the business instead of in the business. But at some point, you'd think every entrepreneur would get it and understand that, but we rinse and repeat that saying because not everybody gets it.
Well, a mentor and a previous boss of mine used to say that all the time. I mean, all the time. Repetition, repetition, repetition. That's how you begin to learn something. As you keep hearing it, well, it must make sense because somebody keeps saying it. Now, this author's advice: get the help you need before you take the second or third cycle of downsizing. It has been stated ad nauseum that we learn from our failures, not from our successes. Failure to learn to change the outcome while doing nothing differently is an effort in futility. It falls under the insanity principle, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I'd like to see more entrepreneurs gain insight into working on the business rather than in the business earlier in their career to avoid the question being asked repeatedly throughout. And that's my advice.
Well, I sent you a meme the other day, and it kind of falls right into this. Good judgment comes from experience, and experience, well, that comes from poor judgment.
You get all of your experience from bad judgment. That is absolutely true. And we've seen plenty of it. And not because these are foolish people. These are intelligent people working. They're hardworking people. They're diligent people. They're passionate about what they do. But somewhere along the line, they don't know what they don't know. And I've explained that so many times to people who are reluctant to say, Steve, I'm running a business, but I got a little bit of a snafu. I need more sales. You know how it always starts with, I need more sales. Truth is, they need more money. They just didn't know how to articulate that. So,
Right. Yeah. There is a shortcut though. You don't have to make every mistake. You can learn from other people's mistakes. Hence, your mentors, your coaches, your consultants, your advisors, whatever. Learn to learn from other people's mistakes rather than having to make the mistakes yourself.
yeah, don't make all the mistakes. It gets very expensive. Trust me.
All right. What's our story about today, Steve?
That's a great question, Skip. You made it. No, actually, it's about, if I'm not mistaken, this story that illustrates a guy that started to do something and was good at it, and he got that word of mouth. This is not a typical story where he went backwards a little bit. He took that thing and ran with it. I'm not going to give away the title of the company, but go ahead and run that story time of the day.
Let's roll it.
A great real life example of a company that started as someone's hobby and later became very successful is Yankee Candle. Yankee Candle was founded by Michael Kittredge in 1969 when he was just a teenager. The company grew from humble beginnings into one of the largest and most successful candle manufacturers in the U.S., known for its scented candles sold around the world. Kittredge didn't originally intend to start a business. As a 16-year-old high school student, he wanted to make a thoughtful Christmas gift for his mother. Without much money to spend, he decided to make her a candle by melting down some crayons. The candle was well received, and when a neighbor saw it, she expressed interest in buying one. Encouraged by his unexpected demand, Kittredge began making more candles in his family's kitchen and selling them to local friends, neighbors, and shops. It quickly became more than a hobby, as word spread about his handmade candles. As demand grew, Kittredge realized there was potential to turn his candle-making hobby into a real business. In the early 70s, he officially founded Yankee Candle Company. He continued making candles at home, but soon expanded by opening a small retail store in South Hadley, Massachusetts. In the 80s and 90s, the company saw massive growth. Yankee Candle expanded its product line and distribution, opening more stores and selling candles through catalog mail orders. Kittredge also increased production capacity by moving operations out of his kitchen and into a factory, turning the business into a full-scale manufacturing operation. Yankee Candle's success was driven by several factors, including product innovation, strong branding, and retail and distribution expansion. In 1998, after nearly 30 years of running Yankee Candle, Kittredge sold 90% of the company to a private equity firm for approximately $500 million. Kittredge remained involved as a consultant for several years. In 2013, Jarden Corporation, which later became part of Newell Brands, acquired Yankee Candle for $1.75 billion, solidifying its place as one of the world's most successful candle companies. Yankee Candle is a compelling example of how a simple hobby, making a candle as a gift, grew into a multi-million-dollar global business. Michael Kittredge's passion for candle making and commitment to innovation transformed a homemade project into one of the most iconic candle brands in the world, demonstrating how a hobby can lead to incredible success with the right focus and dedication. So what'd you think?
Well, you got to feel great for somebody who starts at 16 making a present for his mom and ends up with a multi-million-dollar company, right?
Was that $1.5 billion enterprise?
Right. But and somebody who's doing what they love, and they can actually not only make a living, but succeed by all standards immensely by doing something they love. So that's great. I all the power to them. I remember when I was young and living in New England, Yankee Candles were everywhere.
What's funny is as we contemplated the story that we should put in on this podcast, there are so many real life stories that I could have shared about people that I have met, people that were in a very difficult crossroads, people that went up and down that scale and finally learned how to run the business because they never really knew. They knew how to operate the business, but they didn't know how to run the business. And the success that they've had, there's so many people that I could have talked about, but in the interest of confidentiality.
I'm sure he had to bring in experts, as a 16-year-old that hasn't been to business school, hasn't worked any big jobs or whatever, must have needed tremendous help in order to get where he got to.
Well, when I met with Kittredge, he was very thankful for all the information we provided him so he could take it to the next level.
Excellent. All right. Moving on.
So what's next, Skip?
I think we should give a free business tool away today, don't you?
Give it away again?
Again.
Well, of course, they did have to listen to us for these 15 or 20 minutes. So I think they do deserve something for that.
Yeah, and we promised it to them for every episode of the second season. So I think we should follow through. make it available.
So
Here,
run the reel. What are we giving out today?
here we go.
This week's free gift is our break-even budget tool. Now, this tool is designed to help you kick off your budgeting process for the new year, quarter, or however you plan your sales. And we all know how important planning is because, as we've said many times in our podcast, if you don't know where you're going, just about any road will get you there eventually. Now, let's let Skip show us around the tool.
Thanks, Steve. I think this is going to take the fear out of budget season. I know we all get a little worked up when it comes to designing a budget, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. And this tool should help you get started with that process and make it relatively easy. The minimal amount of information you need to start with. Put your present sales revenue in here, put your cost of sales, put your present overhead in here, and then tell the spreadsheet how many months of data that represents. I mean, ideally you'd want 12 months, but if all you've got is a quarter's worth of information, you put 3 months. However much information you've got, you put in there and tell how many months it is. Once you've got that done, it'll tell you how much sales you need to do each month on average in order to break even. So this is 133,000 in this particular example. So I built a model with 150,000 all the way through, and it shows our profit stacking up over the course of a year. But you can adjust these numbers up or down based on seasonal fluctuation. You can also increase certain months or the whole thing to provide stretch goals. But it's a really simple tool here, just a minimal information, and then you can play around with these revenue numbers month by month until you've got what you think is a pretty good picture of what you'd like to see for the following year. And from this total document, then building your budget in your into your accounting system or to disseminate amongst your employees or managers, it becomes really easy. So minimal, maximal, right there. Steve?
As Skip mentioned, the inputs are minimal, but the outputs are quite powerful. Now, this tool has been very valuable to show not only break even, but also allows you to set future goals and financial expectations for your company's performance. And we hope this makes your business a little more predictable and, as usual, more profitable. And the way to get your copy of the break-even budget tool today for free is to go to the products page at resources-development.com and use the coupon code BUDGETTOOL. That's BUDGETTOOL to get yours absolutely free. Now, this product is a $39.95 value that you will receive for free for listening to us today. Our gift to help make your life biz easier.
That's right, Steve. I hope it helps everybody. Thanks.
And I reiterate, we're giving that away.
Why not?
Check our website, resources-development.com. You can see all the gifts. I shouldn't say it that way. You can see all the products that have been produced by yours truly, Skip Williams, that you can use in your business for a variety of different things to help manage your business more effectively. Manage your business, which is working on the business rather than in the business. In any event, appreciate your listening today.
Hopefully they make their life a little bit easier.
A little bit easier. Isn't that what every label says? It's biz easy.
There we go. That's a wrap, Steve.
That's a wrap.
Woo!
Thanks for listening to today's Biz Easy podcast. If you enjoyed our broadcast, we would kindly ask you to like, subscribe, and share with other entrepreneurs. See you next time on the Biz Easy podcast, where business is simplified for greater results.